really fascinating, intuitive mind. And you've been going by different names. I want to call you Tyler Durden. That was one of your aliases. What are you going by now?
I mean, I guess people that know me, I just go by Taylor. You just call me
Taylor.
Taylor or
Okay.
whatever. But yeah, so
Okay.
Taylor, yeah, underscore Taylor Durden on Instagram, TikTok, and Taylor Durden on YouTube. Tao Lore on Facebook,
Hello.
yeah, because my original Facebook got shut down. So, but yeah,
Okay. So you must be on the right path. Yeah, I saw your Veritas interview. That was just fascinating. It's basically it's very similar to some of the research I've been doing. Trying to connect all of the different archaeological finds in in the United States, in Denver, Colorado, the Grand Canyon, and some of the different statues, like the bull with the Osiris, like sun shield, and like excavating these old Egyptian artifacts and the Ouroboros, the Orpheus fertility eggs that were found with hieroglyphs in the Grand Canyon. So when you start to realize that there's some shifting of names in history, and you have this like awakening in a way that maybe America is the old world. Maybe Florida would have been the Garden of Eden and the four-headed river system and all of the gopher wood tree theories with the Ark and how do you communicate this kind of extremely hard to sort of um, uh, present a theory to people? Have you found reels to be the best way, or have you had any other sort of methods of communicating this theory and proving to people that, in fact, all of our history has been supplanted and altered and inverted?
yeah, I think Reels, I guess, are the answer right now. I don't know when the format will change, but yeah, 180 seconds or less, 90 seconds or less, I guess, if you're really good at what you do. I'm just still in this 180-second format. I wonder how that's going to go if I can shift into 90 seconds because I feel like the retention rate on them, even on the 180-second ones, is about 90 seconds. Most people stop, they tune out around 90 seconds. So
Yeah.
um, I think if you can make content that's 90 seconds, that is hard hitting and pertinent to what we're going through, and
Mm.
it's tough. That's the challenge, I guess. Just like kind of bringing it into that microwavable box. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do think that attention spans are shortening, and as time goes on, uh, people are going to find it harder to focus on things. I think there's going to be not just distractions, but just the inability to focus because of the toxins in our food, the lack of high frequency music, meditation, and also our miseducation. So we have to battle this kind of brainwashing, this international brainwashing, because education is controlled. Our music is controlled, food, and social media now is obviously one of the only ways to really get any kind of recalibration happening. But we still have the old architecture in many cities, and I have found architecture to be a really fascinating way to approach learning about the old world, especially the materials used in the architecture, like the granite basalt, sort of these electromagnetic batteries that all these structures have become. Is there anything that you've actually gone out and had a look at, any kind of architecture?
Yeah, I usually spend like half the year in Europe, and there's so many what they're calling cathedrals and stuff that are just incredible to go inside of. Like I was in the tallest one on earth in Germany is the Ohm. the one in Ulm.
Köln. Oh,
The
Ulm.
the
Ulm is taller. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
the Ulm Minster. It's taller. It's not like the biggest, but it's the tallest. But yeah, the one in Köln is pretty dope too. But like, yeah, I think that they're just. I mean, when people try to replicate some of the spires, the stories on all of those things are garbage. Like the Ulm Minster, I think they said like they built the bottom for 200 years and then they stopped for 200 years and then they built the middle for another 200 years and like the story is like pretty. It's like I don't know. It's pretty bad. I don't know. It's not the best explanation for how somebody made such a perfect structure and very sound structure. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, I think with the architecture that there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff here that what like if you take over a civilization, they're not. It's not like you're not gonna find the blueprints. You're gonna be able to reverse engineer things. If you took over America right now, some of these buildings are under construction right now. You could complete that. So I think some things um, are not necessarily from the old world, and they might have just been from that transition phase where people the technology was available. Some of it maybe was still here, more so, more prevalent, wasn't all destroyed
Yeah.
or hoarded away. And there are some buildings that appear to be like so-called Tartarian, but they were actually built by people. And I think it's just like the format is there, the plan, the blueprint is there for people to replicate and reverse engineer. And so I think there's a lot of buildings that are placed amongst the rest that people can point to like as a false validation for why this is not from a different timeline or what have you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some things about the United States that are once you find out that will send you down this rabbit hole, whether you like it or not. I mean, you have to be basically very narrow-minded, or you've been probably warned not to do things. Because I think there are a lot of people kind of trying to stop us. Like as you said, you've had your one of your TikTok accounts taken down, but with no clear sort of description or reason for that. And I think it's having to prove things to someone, but then that person not really being interested or not. It's sort of like a gaslighting thing. So I think that's why the kind of short format does work because then you don't have too much negative feedback from people because it's wasting your time and energy. It's manipulation, right? When they disagree and kind of want you to work hard to prove something, but at the same time not really accept your argument. And with the United States, I think it's a little bit easier. With somewhere like Germany, people get very kind of passionate because they don't have that burden of having to say everything happened in the last 200 years. Because we have literally, I mean, the previous generation has been force-fed this kind of this concept of like Wild West Indians, cowboys, Italian westerns, and Clint Eastwood, right? And when you've seen years and years of John Wayne movies, and then you're suddenly told, oh, these weren't little wooden towns. They were literally like Greco-Roman palaces everywhere. And can you? I don't know. Like, is it a fear of having to accept your entire life? Because if it's most of your life that you've been brainwashed, right? I mean, I'm talking here about the previous generation, like the boomers. Like, how can you say, okay, I will look into the architecture of America and the consensus of like I don't know the 1800s or something. It's got to be like a pretty scary thing for people to do. But we are going to do it anyway. So I have a photo that I would like to show you. Um, this is the statistics from the US census, and I think you may have gone into this before, but I'm just going to try to have a look at it and try to kind of add a bit more weight to the argument that we're making, which is essentially that the entire history of of the United States is probably a fabricated one, and the motivation behind that was probably to yeah to create a new narrative and then claim ownership of all of these institutions. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, so this is the consensus. I just wanted to show you this, see what you're thinking. If you've Have you seen this before? Or-
I'm gonna read it. You know, my screen ain't that big.
Okay, yeah, sorry. No, it's yeah, this is also going to be landscape. So I can read it. So it says up to the close of the year 1852. This is the one that I thought was quite interesting. The various mints in the United States had coined, and it's saying here 432 million pieces of money, the whole value at uh, yeah. So we got like over 3 billion, I guess. But the important thing here is that the whole number of railroads completed in this country up to the close of the year 1853 was 14,000 miles. So, and in 1855, the public lands belonging to the United States covered an area of 1 billion acres, 1.5. So the whole average cost of these lands, 22 cents per acre. And the interesting thing is here, the population of yeah of the United States in 1955. Do you know the population of the United States in 1855? It was
No, I'm pretty sure I've come across that data at some point, but I don't know it offhand.
okay, yeah, okay. Well, according to Google, it says 28.5 million. Yeah. So 28.5 million was the population of the United States. Now the fascinating thing here is that even even though the population of the United States was around only around 28.5 million, we there were already, as you can see here, 36,000 churches,
Yeah.
which, which means I don't know, like half the population. Let's say there's like 600 people in each church. That's half the population is in a church. Uh, you know, then
Yeah, I mean, and
obviously,
then at the time, it's what the whole country isn't even settled, right?
right? It's not even settled. Yeah, yeah. So you've already got 37 medical schools, 119 colleges,
And like
18
what, like
more.
90% of them are like east of the Mississippi, 80% of them.
Right, right. It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. Just having the intuition to sort of pick that information out. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, why would you need 44 theological schools? What's the percentage of people going to law school back then, like, and medical school? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I found that insane. I mean, it's insane. It just means that all of these places were already here, and some of these were beautiful Greco-Roman structures. Some of them Baroque, you have Gothic, yeah, Gothic cathedrals. Even like yeah,
Yeah.
for New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. Some amazing Chicago, amazing structures, amazing
Truly, yeah,
stuff.
breathtaking.
LA
Yeah.
too. LA, San Francisco has some, I mean, it's just, you know, all the destruction. And, it's just it's a pretty when you think about how elaborate it is and the amount of effort that went into it, it
Yeah,
lets you know that this is a systematic machine that we're going up against, I guess you could say, or it's going up against us.
right. Yeah. So I mean, have you done much? Have you looked into the Moors that I think are the number one uh, kind of the number one most likely theory of who did construct this empire, this Tamari, the Native Americans. Who were those people, and were they actually um, the Moors or the this Moorish Empire, because the Moors also are an Indian tribe, and then you have, I think you've mentioned the Wichita Indians before, and that those names were altered to create new names, keeping the phonetics almost the same. And the a Cherokee, which I think is also a Paleo-Hebrew word, is that right? The Cherokee Indian is Paleo-Hebrew for people of the law.
From what I've seen, it's Saraki, like
Oh,
Zaraki. But yeah, I
Zaraki.
mean it's yeah, but like TSARAGI, and then it just got anglicized. But yeah,
Hmm.
man, I don't know. It's like, what's your definition of a Moor, and like if that's an exonym
Right.
or if that's what people call themselves. You know, that's where it's going to be a tough one to I guess define, because like what how are we defining what a Moor is? You know, is it the noble Drew Ali definition? Is it like how are you defining it? You know, like what makes a
Yeah.
Moor?
Right. I mean, there are obviously many different people that have come along and had this opinion about, oh, the origin would be the continent of Mu, and then you have the Moor as Mauritania. So was Mauritania in fact Africa, and is or was it in the United States? And if the United States was Mauritania, then you have this kind of empire that is spreading throughout the world, and you have proof of that. You have proof of that in Africa, you have proof of that in the United States, all of these Moorish domes throughout, especially North America. Then you have the 711 invasion of Europe by Morocco or by the Umayyad, the Moorish Umayyad Empire, which is, I guess, you could say the Muslim Islamic um, uh, wing to that empire. So when that began, then you have obviously Spain, but you also have the Al-Amarda. You have the Al in front of a lot of these words like Alhambra. And then you have the Iberian Peninsula. All of that empire became Muslim, and I think Spain was part of Africa then. The problem is our maps are wrong. We should be looking at it as a central circle spreading. So Lumeria or Mu spreading out into like Asia, and then you have the Tatar, the black soil people in the Aryan, the Caucasus Asian. Now we call it we call ourselves. And then this empire carries on, and it goes to Portugal and France, and then you have obviously the great record of all of these eccentricities in every European country. You have Saint Maurice, Moritzburg, which is Castle of the Moor. You have Coburg. You have the old. I love the old sigils, like the Moorheads in Italy too, that they still place outside their homes even today, and the Moorish dancers and the Morisco dancers who are wearing all of the Moorish paraphernalia and costumes. So I think we're looking at basically a realm that was the entire realm was Moorish. So I think we're not just talking about a dark-skinned person from Western Africa. We're actually talking about the original people that we are all related to in some way, shape, or form. What do you think about that theory?
I think it's a lot of different stock. I guess I wouldn't say everybody's related, and I definitely say that like you know, people have their time. You know, they have different takeovers throughout the process. Like,
Yeah.
you know, different sects take over, and
Mm.
again, it's like how are we defining what a Moor is? You know, like which stock are we talking about genetically? And that's good. I guess where that conversation um, for me, like where it starts is like what's the genetic definition of a Moor? And I guess that's where I
Mm.
differ from a lot of people as far as that is concerned. I definitely feel like they were a very powerful collective of people that had a lot of influence over the world, over the realm. But I don't think that they were first, and I don't think that if we're talking about from my definition or what I have come to realize what a Moor is, um, I think that that's more of a different stock. You know what I mean? That's a different stock than the original people that built those structures or that built the first structures. And then because you got multiple resets happening, so then that's why you have different architects. You know, or different architecture eras where you got your Moorish and your Gothic, your Greco-Roman, and then you got your star forts, and then you got more like pyramids and stuff like that. Those are all different eras, and the Moors had their era. You know, I think they had it. You know, and I think that's a more later remnant that happened, maybe the second or third reset. Probably, I would think more like in the third, like two resets or three resets that already happened before that influence, um, took over or took shape in a large way. Because, as far as like what we're calling Moorish architecture, and then it's like that's like another thing. It's like we're calling this architecture Moorish, and then the people that were lining up with that, I think, hello,
Hello? Yeah.
I don't know what happened. You see me?
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
don't
just a
know.
glitch.
Okay. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think like the people that line up with that definition, it could differ from who you are. Like as far as like if you look at it biblically or if you look at it like, yeah, I guess geopolitically,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. No,
definition of
I
a Moor, it could be different. Because like some people are going to call people a Moor that are not Moors just because their skin is dark or brown, and then so it's a lot of misnomers as far as that's concerned. But I definitely feel like that influence definitely had its time in the realm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I accept that we have to know where the Moorish Empire begins and and ends. But I see traits now of the Moorish Empire within everything. Um, Maybe that's what happens if you maybe are too focused on a specific theory. So I am open to that possibility, but I am seeing it everywhere because I believe that the Moorish Empire is much bigger than what we've been told, and I think the reason why it was hidden from all of our history books, and I went to quite a good school in the UK, and it was very much hidden from us there. And I think the reason why it's hidden is because there is something much more important here. It's kind of like why is Tartaria hidden? Well, because it's an empire that was constructed by Jesus's lineage, and because it's right in the center of our realm, and it connects all the other continents. And our maps are complete garbage. Like every map we have is complete garbage, and unfortunately, I think in the end we're going to find out that the Moors were the original people, not just of America, but of the entire world. I
Yeah, but that's what
and
I mean. Like, what?
whether I like
That's what
this
I'm
or
saying. As far
not
as what is
is not. I mean, I don't like it because I want to separate Byzantine from Roman, from Carthaginian, from I want to separate the Native Americans from the Native Europeans, and I want to find blonde-haired Northerners, and I want to find Caucasian mummies in China. I want to find these things, and I've been looking for these things. But everywhere I go, I see the same golden ratio, the same Fibonacci sequence, all of the same sort of like information, the same technology in Austin, Texas, as I do in Berlin, and with these large moonlight towers, and when I see the spiral, I'm thinking more because I know that this was their water magic. And when I see a city in Dubai being built and there's no water irrigation and all these trucks are lining up, taking out the sewage, that's not an old city. That is not an ancient city. That is not an energy line. That is fake, fake, fake. It's not going to last. It's going to be gone. It's as beautiful as that city is today. And I love Dubai and I love the people of Dubai, the culture. And I think that I would one day, hopefully, I can go there. Um, I'm not sure if the ancient things survived for other reasons, spiritual reasons, electromagnetic reasons, like a grid structure that was hacked into. And I think the Moors built that, or at least respected it to the point where they built their cities and buildings on those intersections. What do you think of that whole kind of theory?
yeah, like it's enmeshed. Yeah, I just think that it's like it's been the same like time loop over and over again, where you had an original people build a civilization, then it you kind of have like an identity crisis that ultimately leads into some sort of parasitic activity, and then
Mm.
the identity gets usurped. Like I think the best explanation I've heard as far as the Moors, where was a guy, he was saying like the American entity, whatever you want to call that, that was copied, and like you get like a cosplay that the
Yeah.
more that's what the more is the cosplay of what that original thing is. And then it's just like today how like you go to Africa. I mean, people still listen to like Afro beats and stuff like that, but for the most part, when I was in Africa, spent my time in sub-Saharan Africa, they're listening to Black American music. They're not, for the most part, from what I've seen, that's what they're listening to, and they're following that as far as the pop culture. And it's like that American that core American I guess, blueprint, that is like the epicenter of culture. Everything
Mm.
comes out of that. If that isn't an ignorant state, then the world follows an ignorant state. And if that's no matter what it is, that's going to be followed. So like you had the original entity that identity gets copied, and it's like a cosplay type thing, and then they usurp it, and then the name kind of gets watered down, and then that happens to those people, and then it just keeps happening over and over again, and so you have a copy of a copy of a copy, and it's just like a Xerox that's just been
Yeah.
copied so many times into oblivion to where it doesn't really reflect the original template.
Yeah, but I mean, if the rules are like if it's an unshakable rule, like for example, electromagnetic energy, right, harnessing. If it's something that you can't do this any other way. You have to use radium, mercury, copper. You have to use these certain elements to or metals to get there. And sure, you want to hide that from the general populace, so you take it out of the periodic table as soon as the periodic table is designed, and then you pay off people like Medlev, people who are constructing it, or you pay off Tesla, pay off Einstein, pay off all these people that achieve great steps forward in our consciousness. And you miseducate everyone, and it does look like, oh, we are just copying. It's like Chinese. So can we still call it Chinese whispers? I don't know if that's politically correct, but yeah, it does change and alters, and the message ends up with a completely different one. But when the rules are set by this divine sort of higher consciousness, this creative force, I think in the end, everyone has to, whether you call it golden ratio, God's fingerprint, Fibonacci sequence, it doesn't matter. You still have to understand water. You still have to build your church in a certain geometry to harness the energy. You still have to pretend that it's to worship some god, but it's actually not. It's actually an energy center and it's healing. And you still have to use sound. If the elites want to live longer than we do, they still have to have a place where they have their own organ. They have their own refracted light. You see, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you're 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, or you've added 1,000 years so that you can pretend it's not the Moors. In the end, I think we still have to bend the knee to that creator force. So if you want people to walk faster, be able to lift heavy things, you still have to build the exact same six six-sided or six-shape footpath. You still have to use iron or copper. You still have to do that. It doesn't matter if it's Byzantine Empire or if you're in like 8th century Spain. Those are the things I think that we need to focus on. So the sound
Yeah,
is not going to change. The cymatics are not going to change. In the end, you're still going to see some kind of demonic entity, no matter which era of human civilization, because that hasn't changed. But that's not the most important thing. That's just that's just understanding nature, understanding God. Yeah, I mean, the Bible might be one way to get there. Some ancient Mayan pyramid might be your way to get there. Um, and do you know what else hasn't changed? The realm hasn't changed, and guess what else hasn't changed? The human body. So when you look at like the geometry of the human body, I think then then you still understand certain things about the decalcification, sorry, of the pineal gland. You still understand your auras, your seven chakras, like all of that stuff still stands. Like it doesn't change. I mean, it doesn't matter how you decide to strengthen the human body. You can do it in a suit of armor. You can do it with gemstones. Whatever way you do it, it's still the same human body. You still have the electromagnetic coil, your heart. You're not pumping blood. You're obviously creating electricity. Diamonds aren't going to help you, but these 12 elements will. And if you go into a Confucius temple, you also find 12 apostles of Confucius. And if you look into like a medieval, if you look into like medieval um, uh, Norman Britain, you'll still find that they were the Moors too, and they did exactly the same thing. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
some things are
the
lost, but
body.
some things are not, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always like a core remnant that is there for continuity, but for the most part, like the collective has mutated and the template has broken down. Like
That's a beautiful sentence.
there's
Sorry, the
code.
collective, one more time. The collective have
The
mutated.
collective has mutated
Can I
and
write
the
that
template
down?
has
Is that
broken down.
collect? That's beautiful. Yeah. Collective has mutated. But what and then you said something else, sorry.
The template has broken down, like where some codes are suppressed, they're not being printed basically. Like
Yeah,
it might be
I
there,
agree.
but it's just suppressed, so it's not getting printed correctly, and so the body is just not expressing that original code like it could, just because the mutation. And like I said, though, there's always like a core nest of people that are there, and for every genotype, there's always like this core remnant that remains, that is like the grapevine that's the archetype for every I guess model of person. And for beside outside of that, most people have been mutated or degraded or fragmented, and it's just an arduous process to
Fix it. Yeah.
yeah, to really transform and